Some thoughts today on a book that I had intended to write years ago, and it's about your place in golf and having the confidence to work on your game without fearing for the opinions of other people. And I believe that is a big part of what holds a lot of golfers back, worrying and obsessing over whether or not you're going to embarrass yourself or what your friends are thinking and how you're hitting the ball. That sort of stuff can really, really hinder a golfer's performance. So this one's hopefully going to give you a little consolation, a little help with confidence.
This is the Golf Essentials Podcast with Casey Bork.
So my little nephew just turned 2, and we were at his birthday party the other day, and one of the guys at the party listens to the podcast, and he's an average golfer, beginner golfer, and as I was leaving the party, he pulled me aside and said, "Hey man, I listened to the podcast, love it, keep it going, whatever, and all the stuff that you talk about is, I'm just not a good enough golfer. It doesn't really apply to me." And that was surprising for me to hear, because I really want all of you to feel like the stuff that I'm talking about is deployable and understandable and something that most anybody at any level is going to benefit from, just grounded in truth and practicality rather than me trying to sell you golf lessons or, packages that you got to buy or videos and things like that. So that surprised me. But, it sort of reminded me as well of, this idea I had some years back to write a book, and the book that I was going to write was, and I still have all the notes, but the book title was going to be something like How I Know You Suck, or something like that. And the premise is, and it's true in golf, it's true in any profession, any area of life, if you're an attorney or any area, there is sort of an unwritten, but just it's an understood sort of hierarchy as to, and what I mean is, the little things that you do and the things that you say and how you say them, the language and the vocabulary and all the little things that people do and say sort of give you away as to where your standing is in that hierarchy. So, like anything else, I honestly believe that you shouldn't be faking it. You shouldn't be trying to posture. If you just tell your truth and live your truth, people are always going to respect that, because humans are super, super adept at sniffing out bullshit. And golf is no different. And so the basis for this book was to outline all the little things that people at different levels of the game that they do and how they behave that gives them away as to where they are, and it starts out in the beginning where the ultra beginners, it's really obvious stuff, right? So the person that shows up at the golf course doesn't know where to go. They're wearing jeans, or they're not dressed appropriately. They don't even have golf clubs, or the clubs that they have sort of give them away. There's all sorts of little things, the way that they stand over the ball, and all the little things that beginners do, how they grip the club. It just gives you away instantly as to the fact that you're a beginner. So there's just no reason to posture, and most beginners don't, right? Most beginners know, like, okay, I'm a beginner, everybody's going to notice, and they're sort of afraid of that. They're afraid of being found out or looking bad. But the cool thing in golf is that everybody was a beginner once. Therefore, everybody understands how hard golf is when you're starting. So as a beginner, you can take consolation that everybody's been where you are. And everybody looks like they're expert. But when you look around and if you could get inside the minds of all those players at the club that just are walking around like they're acting like they own the place, they have the same fears, the same anxieties, the same issues, the same thoughts going around in their head about performing and, doing things and playing their best and looking good in front of their peers as you do as a beginner. So that's a little sidebar consolation for you beginners out there. But as it progresses, as you get a little bit better, so now you move up, and now there's the guy at the club or gal who is, one of the better players at the club, and they showboat around and they act like rock stars. And, as you progress in the game, you may develop this sort of false confidence, this sort of bravado when you're in certain circles. But in other circles, there are things that guy does that totally gives him away as to where he stands. So if he's hanging around some, good sort of state regional, even national sort of amateur type players, he's talking about winning his club championship and how he made it to being a 2 handicap or something like that. And that sort of talk is super impressive around his comrades, the players, the 10 handicaps, the friends in his circles, and the people that come to dinner at his house. But in a high quality amateur circumstance, that just gives him away as being just a local club player and commands zero respect from, that just gives him away. Because if you're even talking about handicap, then you're probably not a serious competitive golfer in the first place. Competitive golfers don't even think about their handicap. None of the events that are net even apply, and they're not worrying about the decimal points on their index because it doesn't matter. It's, they're not getting any strokes anyway. So that stuff gives those type people away as you move up the spectrum. And, then you've got, the good amateur players, or even like now the mini tour professional players, or maybe I should say, the club professional, right? So, and I'll give you a personal example. Me as a club professional, so as a golf instructor, when I was working out at Moon Valley Country Club in Phoenix, I had a staff deal with TaylorMade, and so I had the tour bag and all the equipment and everything, and that's super cool. And it had a big PGA logo on it, and that's a nice certification as an instructor. It sort of legitimizes you as an instructor, and that's great. That's assuring for students, and it's definitely a credential. Now, when I qualified to play in the Justin Timberlake, the PGA Tour event in Vegas, that same bag, when I walked onto the driving range at a PGA Tour event, gives me away as being a working class country club pro schmuck, right? I'm not a tour player. There's 0 PGA Tour players with the PGA of America logo on it, because that represents, the business of golf, the golf instructors, the club operators, that sort of crowd. But, if you're teaching golf, then you're not playing on the PGA Tour. You're not solely playing golf for a living. And even amongst good mini tour players, people that are in the minor leagues playing professional golf, that gives you away as somebody that is not full-time player. He's full-time worker, part-time player, and so therefore that gives you away as being somebody that isn't really going to be noteworthy at that professional level, the competitive level, you know. Yeah, so at every level, so even I have a lot of things that I do and say and have around me that gives me away as being inferior to other circles of play. And if you go right on up the ladder, you know, the A-listers on the PGA Tour, they're in a completely different league than the guys that are scraping by trying to keep their tour card. And even if you've made it onto the PGA Tour, you are in a completely different stratosphere as anyone else on the planet. But you're still light years away from the Jordan Spieths and the Rory McIlroys and the Tiger Woods of the world. It's almost not even the same sport. They're concerned about such different things. They play in different tournaments even. You know, there aren't even a lot of overlaps because, you know, the A-listers are playing majors and they're talking about different things and they get to know each other better. And the lower end of the PGA Tour is more transient, right? So you're in there for a year or two and then you go back to Webb and vice versa. So all of this, guys, I have so many notes on it, and I really believe that it could turn into a pretty cool book someday. There's really funny stuff down at the lower end of the spectrum, but take consolation that everybody in the game is confronted with the same mental challenges, the psychological challenges of confidence and self-esteem even, and you're standing in your place and being accepted and hitting good shots and avoiding embarrassment and things like that. And so the quicker you understand that and the quicker that you get beyond that and separate yourself from this sort of fear or obsession of other people's opinions about what you're doing and how you're doing it, the more it's going to free you up to play better golf and move you up that ladder without, it's certainly a better strategy than trying to posture. So by posturing, you are going out of your way to impress others, and by definition, if you're so concerned about what others are thinking about you, you're not focusing on your game and you're not getting better. So that's my 2 cents. So to my friend who didn't feel adequate to consume my content and to play a little golf and to work on his game and do some of the drills that I'm suggesting, I really hope you change your mind. And this stuff is intended to be for all of you guys who are sort of the weekend warriors. And if it's not, I want you to reach out. I want you to reach out and let me know what I can talk about, what kind of questions you have, and what kind of content that I should be putting out there that's going to make a little more sense and be of value to you and your circles of golfers to make your lives a little better. Thanks, guys.